Right, go ahead.
Verse 10. On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mahuman, Bithar, Harbona, Bithar, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Kakars, the seven chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king.
All right, so another name for chamberlains is eunuch. All right. Um, so the king at this moment he's very merry. He done drink some, a lot of good wine, etc. So he's feeling good right now. Read.
Verse 11. To bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal.
So the king told his chamberlain, "Go get Vashti. Go get my queen Vashti. Bring her in front of me." Read.
Um,
Verse 11.
Verse 11. Okay. To shew the people of the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
So he was trying to show off her beauty, right? He felt that his wife was beautiful, and he was just having a good time already, celebrating this celebration that he put together, and he wanted to show off his wife to everybody. All right, because why? She was fair to look at. She was beautiful to look at. All right, go ahead.
Verse 12. Verse 12. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
So she refused. So I don't get this, right? You have the king really trying to show off his wife. I thought that's what women like, for their husband to be just, hey, this is my wife, this is my beautiful wife.
Trophy wife.
Yeah, but she didn't want that, She refused to come, and because of that, she got the king Xerxes very, very angry. Go ahead.
Verse 13. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner towards all that knew law and judgment. Verse 14. And next unto him was Shina, Shathar, Admathar, Tashash, Mores, Marsena, and Mamukin, the seven princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's faces, and which sat the first in the kingdom. Verse 15. What shall we do upon the queen Vashti according to the law?
So they're asking the king, what should we do to Vashti? The king commanded her to come, and she didn't come. So what should we do with her according to the law for disobeying the king? Go ahead.
Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
Go ahead.
Verse 16. The Mamukin answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen had not done wrong to the king only.
So they said, look, Vashti didn't only do wrong to Xerxes by not listening to him when he told her to come. Go ahead.
But also to all the princes and to all the people that are in the provinces of the king Ahasuerus.
So she didn't only do wrong to the king. She didn't make just the king look bad by not coming, but she made all the other princes look bad. All right, go ahead. It's going to tell us how to. Go ahead.
Verse 17. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women.
All the other women, they're going to find out how she spoke to her king. She might have influence to these other women. Go ahead. Verse 17.
Verse 17. So that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes. When it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
So her action towards the king by being disobedient, she's gonna put that same type of energy to the other woman. So the women are gonna understand, hey, look, Vashti is a queen. The king told her to come, and she said no. So if the queen could tell the king no, then we could tell our husbands no too. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 18. Likewise, shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. Verse 19. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti came no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
So they encouraging King Xerxes. All right, look, we're gonna make a law where Vashti can't come to you no more. Matter of fact, we're gonna find someone better. Let's replace her. All right, we're just gonna replace her with another queen instead, since she wants to be disobedient. All right. Matter of fact, go to Ephesians. Save that. Yeah, save that and go to Ephesians, chapter 5. All right. Ephesians chapter 5. And we're going to go to verse 26, I believe. Ephesians 5 and 26.
Ephesians 5 and 20?
26.
5 and 26. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 26.
Ephesians 5, 26. Verse 24, go ahead.
Ephesians chapter 5, verse 24. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 24. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything.
So when it comes to the word of God, right, the woman is supposed to be subjected to her husband in everything. Obviously, Vashti ain't gonna care about this because she's not an Israelite, and her husband is a Persian, but basically she went against this scripture that we're supposed to follow. She did not submit herself to her husband in everything. He gave her a simple command, hey, come, so I can show off your beauty to everyone. She said no. And therefore, she's going to do a domino effect with the other women to tell their husbands no for little things like coming, like listen to a direction, like come here, let me show your beauty, etc. All right, so let's go back to Esther. And you can start at verse 19 again.
Verse 19. Esther chapter 1, verse 19. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persian and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti came no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
Yeah, so we got everything she got, we're gonna give it to another woman that wanna be submissive, that wanna listen, right? And we're gonna make a law to get rid of Vashti. Alright, keep going.
Verse 20. And when the king's decree which he shall make shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
So in that new law that was written for all of Xerxes' kingdom, it was written that all the women will honor and respect their husband. They don't get to tell their husband no for something simple as what Vashti did with Xerxes. They have to listen to their husbands. All right, go ahead.
So you saying this is Xerxes?
Yeah, Xerxes.
Yeah, I said Xerxes. Okay, Salaki.
That's another way of saying it. Xerxes.
Xerxes. Okay, Salaki. Okay. Verse 21. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Mamukin.
So the king was happy, and the princes, they was like, that's a good idea. This law where our wife have to listen to us, oh yeah, this is a good idea. Everybody was happy with it. All right,
Verse 22.
In 2024, right, so-called 2024, right, hey, that would be a good, a good little law to put out there, right? All these, like the sister Mimi said, all these dragons we got to deal with, right? These dragons. Jezebels, etc.
That's right.
That law would come in handy, man.
That's right.
All right, if they don't listen, throw them in jail or something.
That's
So
right.
go ahead, verse 22.
Verse 22. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language.
So this letter went so much to everyone, even if they spoke different languages when they were in his empire that he was ruling over, they translated it, they had it written in that language so they could also understand. Keep going.
That every man should bear rule in his own house.
Hey, that's how it's supposed to be. Go to 1 Corinthians.
First
All right.
Corinthians.
1 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse number 3. All right. 1 Corinthians 11, verse number 3. Yeah, so part of what's in that letter is that every man is supposed to rule their own house. Right?
Uh-huh.
1 Corinthians 11 and 3. 11 and 3. And that's actually, you know what, the fact that they put in that's part of the word of God. Right? That's God's words. Like, hey, the man is overall supposed to be ruling his house. Right? But we do know the Bible says things would flip, would switch. The woman would then be ruling. She would be over the man.
Over the man.
Go ahead.
1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. But I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ.
It's the woman.
The head of every man is Christ.
Hey, we, you know, these sisters, they don't understand that, right? You read that to some so-called Christian believers, some sisters, they gonna say, no, I don't know about that. I don't know if I could agree with that, right? Well, why can't we be equal?
Yeah.
Why can't we be like, you know, right next to each other? Why do you have to be above me, right? God is against it. That's not right. Right? So read it again.
But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man.
Yes, that part, sister's not gonna like. Right? Sister's not gonna like that part. The only way you gonna agree with that scripture is if you fully believe in the Bible. If you don't fully believe in the Bible, you're not gonna accept the head of the woman is the man. You're not going to accept that as a woman. All right, so let's go back to Esther.
Esther. Okay, Esther chapter 1, verse 22. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writings thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people.
Khan, we could play that now, brother. It's right. I can do it.
Right, Khan.
Right there.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna see an example of who Xerxes is. This homosexual guy is Xerxes. And yeah, I'm gonna explain that. He's supposed to represent Mordecai in a way.
It must be Xerxes.
Yeah, he calls.
Let us reason together. It would be a regrettable waste. It would be nothing short of madness for you, brave king, and your valiant troops to perish. All because of a simple misunderstanding. There is much our cultures would share.
I haven't noticed. We've been sharing our culture with you all morning.
Yours is a fascinating trial. Even now you are defiant. In the face of annihilation. In the presence of a god. It isn't wise to stand against me, Leonidas. Imagine what horrible fate awaits my enemies when I would gladly kill any of my own men for victory.
And I would die for anyone of mine.
You Greeks think right in your logic. I suggest you apply it. Consider the beautiful lands and so figures.
Right here in the middle. You want to pause it down?
Turning this to ash and my weapon.
So you notice Xerxes said a fascinating tribe, right? And what he called Leonidas? Greek. Right? So the 300, that was based off of actually Israelites. Right? So that's Xerxes right there, you know. A tall, you know. I'm not gonna say it because it, you know. But hey, this is us right here. It's supposed to represent us, and yeah, that's the Xerxes we're reading about. All right, let's continue. And oh yeah, so basically they were trying to teach us their ways, right? But let's continue.
Clearly, you don't know our women. I might as well have marched them up here, judging by what I've seen. You have many slaves, Xerxes. A few warriors. It won't be long before they fear my spears more than your whips.
It's not the lash they fear. It is my divine power. That I'm a generous God. I can make you rich beyond all measure. I will make a war hard for Greece. You will carry my battle standard to the heart of Europa. Your Athenian rivals will kneel at your feet. If you will but kneel at mine.
You are generous. But you are divine. King of kings. Such an offer only a madman would refuse.
So Salaka, so right here you got Xerxes telling him, "Hey, kneel down before me." So when we read Esther a little bit more, we're gonna see where Mordecai is being told to kneel as well. All right. So this is gonna finish up in a second.
But the idea, you see, slaughtering all those men has left a nasty on my legs. So kneeling will be hard.
There will be no glory in my sacrifice. I will erase even the memory of Sparta from the histories. Every piece of Greek parchment shall be burned. Every Greek historian and every scribe shall have their eyes put out and their tongues cut from their mouths. Why, uttering the very name of Sparta or Leonidas will be punishable like that. The world will never know you existed at all.
The world will know that free men stood against a tyrant, that few stood against many. And before this battle was over, that even if God can bleed.
All right.
Yeah, so yeah, that's Xerxes, right? That's the Xerxes that we're reading about. All right, the 300 movies actually Israelites. All right, let's go to Esther chapter 2.
Esther chapter 2 at the top. After these things, when the wrath of the king Xerxes was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and what was decreed against her.
So Xerxes here remembered how Vashti didn't listen, right? Even though they made a law, right? We're gonna get a new queen to replace her, right? He still remembered how she was disobedient. All right, go ahead.
Verse 2. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king.
So they said, look, let's get some beautiful young women for the king. All right, go ahead.
And let the kings appoint officers in all the provinces in his kingdom, that they may gather together all fair young virgins unto Shashon the palace.
So we're going to get all the beautiful women and we're going to bring them to the palace. Go ahead.
To the house of the women, unto the custody of Haga, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the woman, and let their things for purification be given them.
All right, so these women, they're going to be purified. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti.
So the person that makes the king Xerxes the most happiest, hey, she gets to be queen. All right, no more Vashtis. No more having a queen that's disobedient and can't listen to an easy command. All right.
And the thing pleased the king. Verse 5. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai.
So Mordecai, all right, this is where Mordecai come into play, and we're gonna find out his tribe right now. Go ahead.
The son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
Yes, so Mordecai was a Benjamite. All right, just like Paul, Mordecai was a Benjamite. Go ahead.
Verse 6, who has been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. Verse 7, and he brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther.
So Hadassah, that's another name for Esther. Okay, go ahead.
His uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful.
So Esther is described as beautiful. All right, very beautiful. Go ahead.
Whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
So hey, Mordecai stepped up. You know, he realized her parents passed away, so he took her as his own daughter. Right? So go ahead.
Verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keepers of the woman.
So out of all the women, the beautiful woman, Esther, someone coming to the king's house. Read.
Verse 9. And that maiden pleased, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, which with such things has belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her, out of her king's house, as he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the woman.
Go ahead.
Verse 6. Esther has shewed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had changed that had charged her that she should not shew it.
So Mordecai told Esther, don't tell that you're Israelite. All right, keep that between us. Right. So Esther, like, she had a certain look about her, where you couldn't just look at her and be like, oh, that's an Israelite. Right. She had what they would call a exotic look. Right. She had a very mixed, so-called, they say mixed. Right. She had just a look about her, where you couldn't just look at her and say, hey, that's an Israelite. So he was like, okay, because of that, we're going to use that to our advantage. Do not say you're an Israelite. We're going to keep that between us. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the woman's house, to know how Esther did, and what should become of her.
So he was seeing what would be the outcome of Esther. Is she going to get selected? All these beautiful women? And if not, what's going to be the outcome? All right, go ahead.
Now, verse 12. Now when every maid turn came to go in the king's Ahasuerus,
Xerxes.
sorry. King Xerxes, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the woman. For so were the days of their purification accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with the other things for purification of the woman.
So a total of 12 months, right? They were bathing in nice smelling oils, etc. Right? Right there, the sisters, hey, they were basically well kept, taking care of themselves really good. Now you got, here, let's go to Isaiah 3. Isaiah 3 and 24. We just gonna let the scripture talk. Right. So, go ahead, Isaiah 3 and 24. Yes, sir, Isaiah 3 and 24.
Someone's at the front door.
3:24. Isaiah chapter 3.
Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 3 verse 24. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell there shall be stink, and instead of a girdle of rent, and instead of well sent hair baldness.
So read that again from the top, bro.
It's not mighty.
Read it again.
Isaiah chapter 3 verse 24, and it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell there shall be stink.
So right here we read in the book of Esther, right, how the sisters right here, they were purified for so long, total of 12 months, they were smelling good. But now, right, our sisters, they're going to be stinking. All right? Why? A lot of fornication, right? And eventually pH stuff is going to get thrown off.
Yeah.
Right? The stuff that we eat, all these foods that's just defiled, right? That alone is messing with her body too. Go ahead.
And the fact that these women are sleeping with different men. You know, you're only supposed to sleep with one man for the rest of your life, according to the scriptures. But these women have multiple sex partners too.
Yeah, that's just throwing things off, right? So our sisters no longer smelling the way that they're supposed to be smelling, according to the Bible, right? You got some that's doing a really good job, right? You know, they making sure they smell good. And you got some that stink, like the Bible says, right? Let's go back to Esther. Verse 13. Oh, go ahead.
At the time, you got that female rapper that's promoting that too. Forgot her name.
Promoting what?
Like,
Fornication?
Odor and all that.
Okay.
She came out with the lipstick. The lip
Oh,
gloss.
Cardi B?
No, she's talking about
And what's her name?
Sexy Red. Yeah.
So she's
She got
promoting to our sisters about
discharge of lipstick. It's called.
What?
This was called discharge.
Yo,
Yeah,
that,
her
that's,
lipstick, she got discharge, she got period blood, all of that.
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. I ain't seen that. Yeah, I'm a,
Yeah, I
that's,
forgot that one, yeah.
that's crazy.
Sexy red.
Alright, go ahead, verse 13.
Verse 13. Then thus came every maiden unto the king. Whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house.
So all the beautiful women, the ones that were chosen, whatever they wanted, the king gave it to them, right? Whatever they requested, the king gave it to them. Go ahead.
Verse 14. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the woman, to the custody of Shagaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came into the king's no more, except the kings delighted in her, and that she were called by name.
So these women, they couldn't just come to the king when they wanted, right? Xerxes had to call them in order for them to come. Just like we read earlier, right? He called Vashti, but she refused to come. So because of that, she's about to get replaced. So don't listen to that, that so-called Beyonce song, Irreplaceable. Nah, right? That goes for the woman too. Don't think you're irreplaceable. Just look at this right here. Hey, Vashti about to leave. Hey, the king about to have a new queen just like that. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai,
Yeah, go ahead, Con.
who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king. She required nothing but what Haggai the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the woman, appointed, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her.
So just remember, we just read earlier, all the women, the other woman, whatever they requested was given to them by the king. Esther, she didn't need nothing. And that stood up to the king, so she got favor in the king's eyes. She wasn't someone that needed something. Today, the sisters, hey, they need everything, right? If you want to talk to them, you better get more than 6 figures, right? Your 401k, they need to know about that, right? You better get ready to pay for their lashes and nails to get done every week, right? All their phone bills, for what? Just for them to not listen to you. Just for them to tell you, I don't have to listen to you.
Yeah.
After you do all of that, right?
Defiant.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto the king Xerxes into his house in the royal 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Verse 17. And the king loved Esther above all the women.
So out of all the beautiful women, he chose Esther. Remember, Esther is described as beautiful as well. But the Israelite woman is more beautiful than the other nations.
That's right.
All right. Some of the other nations, they got a cool little look, but the way the Israelite woman is described in the Bible, they're way more beautiful than the other women. All right, way more beautiful. Let me get Jeremiah 6:2 real quick.
Jeremiah 6:2.
That's why when our brothers be going with the Edomites, I don't know what they thinking, right? Because supposedly these Edomites, they don't be taking a shower, right?
Nope.
They don't be washing their hands. They be flat as a table,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't know why they even choose an Edomite.
And they age bad.
Yeah.
By the time they get 30, they look like they're 60. That's why they do all those surgeries and stuff.
Jeremiah 6:2. All right, so go ahead when you got it.
Jeremiah 6:2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman.
So the word comely in the Bible means beautiful. All right. So the Israelite woman, you're compared to a beautiful woman. All right.
Psalms 50:2.
Yeah, go ahead. You can bring that out. So in the Bible, the Israelite woman is compared to being described as beautiful, to be specific. All right. They're described as beautiful and delicate. That's how they're supposed to be described. Now you got people like what's her name? Krishan, right? Hey, she probably was trying to fight us men in here, right? She be fighting with her, supposed to be husband. She far from delicate acting.
That's right.
Far from delicate acting. All right, go ahead.
Psalms chapter 50 verse 2. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God has shined.
All right, so look, out of Zion, it makes it very clear. That is the perfection of beauty, right? The woman, if you want to see beautiful, look at the daughters of Zion.
That's right.
Right? It's not going to get more beautiful than that. Who's the daughters of Zion? The daughters of Israel, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, you're not going to find a more beautiful sister than those sisters right there. All right, let's go back to Esther.
Verse 15. Okay, Esther chapter 2 verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, I'll go up to 16. Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto the king Xerxes into the house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Verse 17. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head, and made her queen instead of Vashti.
All right, so yes, this beautiful woman described as Esther, she's now the queen. All right, she's now the queen. Vashti, she's no more. Her defiance was too much to deal with, so they got her out of there. All right, keep reading.
Verse 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gift according to the state of the king.
So now the king is having another celebration, another feast. All right, and guess what? Esther as well. All right, go ahead.
Verse 19. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Verse 20. Esther had not yet shewed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her.
So even though she became the queen now, remember we read earlier, Mordecai was like, do not say that you're an Israelite. So right here, it's being made clear. She listened. She still did not say she was an Israelite. Sisters today, if they become queen in some way, shape, or form, you can't tell them what to do.
Nope.
Right? A sister get money alone is gonna make you not be able to tell her nothing. Now, if she become queen, if she's over empires, oh yeah, you really can't tell her nothing. All right, go ahead.
For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she brought up with him.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those kept, of those which kept the gate, were wrath and sought to lay hand on the king's Xerxes.
All right, so right here you got Xerxes. Two of his men wanting to overthrow him, destroy him. Two of his own men that he's supposed to trust, they want to destroy him. All right, go ahead.
Verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen.
And Mordecai found out that his own man wanted to destroy him. So Mordecai went and told Queen Esther so she could tell King Xerxes that two of his men want to destroy him. Go ahead.
And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name.
And Esther was wise. She used this opportunity to bring up Mordecai so the king could get used to Mordecai's name. She's trying to help Mordecai also get in a good position. She's in a good position already. She's queen. Now she's trying to help Mordecai to get in a good position. So she's moving very wisely at the moment. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree.
Yeah, so there you go. So when the king found this out, he checked about it to see if it's true. Was his own man really trying to destroy him? He found out it was true, so he made sure they was both hanged. All right, go ahead.
And it was written in the book of Chronicles before the king.
All right, so let's move forward. Esther chapter 3. All right, Esther chapter 3. Esther chapter 2. Go ahead.
Esther chapter 3 at the top. After these things did King Xerxes promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, and the Agatite.
So this is Haman, an Agatite. All right, aka Edomite. All right, so this Edomite, he's getting promoted. He's getting a certain level of power under the Persian Empire by Xerxes. All right, go ahead.
And advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
And he had high power. Haman had so much power that he was higher than the other princes. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman.
So when they would see Haman, they would bow down to this Edomite. Go ahead.
For the king has so commanded concerning him.
So they commanded this to be done. Read.
But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
So remember when we were watching the clip, right? Xerxes was telling him to bow, and he was like, he's not going to bow. All right, so right here, same thing, right? So they want Mordecai to bow down to this Edomite, but Mordecai did not bow down. We don't do that. We don't bow down to heathens.
What?
We're not supposed to do that.
Where you at? Sorry.
All
Esther,
right.
what?
Esther chapter 3, verse 2. We're going to be in verse 3 now. So go ahead.
Esther chapter 3, verse 3. Then the king's servant, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment?
So they tell him, Mordecai, why you not listening to the king? The king made it very clear, when Haman come around, you have to bow. All right, he was very clear about that. So why are you not listening to the king? Go ahead.
Verse 4. Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him.
So they would tell him daily, why are you not bowing to the king? Everybody else is bowing, but for some reason every day you don't want to bow down. Go ahead.
And he hearkened not unto them.
He didn't even pay attention to them. Mordecai kind of ignored him. He's not worried about bowing down to an Edomite. Go ahead.
That they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matter would stand.
So they went and told Haman, the Edomite, hey, Mordecai doesn't want to bow. Everyone else is bowing to you, but Mordecai, he does not want to bow down. Go ahead.
For he had told them that he was a Jew.
So he made it clear, hey, I'm a Jew. I don't bow down to Edomites. Right? But today, you know, you got our people, hey, forget bowing down. We marrying Edomites now. We having Edomite babies.
Yeah.
We leaving our inheritance to Edomites. Literally. When they pass away, they making sure they will go to their Edomite wife.
Mm-hmm.
We doing way worse than, you know, now, hey, I'm pretty sure some of our people today would be so happy to bow down to, you know, Hammond.
That's right.
Right? Some of our people, right? The fake Prince Harry, that's his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of our people will bow down to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So go ahead.
It was crying.
That's crazy.
To see whether Mordecai's matter would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 5.
And Salafi, get Ezra 1 and 5. Save that and go to Ezra 1 and 5. So Mordecai said, hey, I'm a Jew. All right, so when it comes to the context you're reading, it could be concerning all of the Israelites, or it could be concerning these three tribes. Ezra chapter 1 verse 5.
Ezra chapter 1 verse 5. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites.
All right, so those three tribes are what you consider Jews. All right, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And Mordecai was from what tribe? He was a Benjamite. All right, so he's classified as a Jew. All right. So let's go back to Esther. All right, we're gonna go to Esther 3 and 5.
3 and 5. Okay. Esther chapter 3 verse 5. And when Haman saw Mordecai bow not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
So when this Edomite Haman finally sees that Mordecai is not bowing down to them, now he's starting to get angry. At first they was just telling him, he didn't see it with his own eyes. But now that he's actually witnessing it with his own eyes, he's getting really angry at this moment. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone.
So he was trying to get physical with Mordecai. All right. Hey, that's what Edomites do. They always want to get physical with you. All right. Go ahead.
For they had shewed him the people of Mordecai.
So they told Haman, hey, Mordecai's people are the Jews. That's his people. Go ahead.
Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes, even the people of Mordecai.
So because of that, Mordecai, he's so angry, he's like, okay, so you don't want to bow to me? So I want to destroy you, and I want to destroy all the Jews. Why? Simply because you won't bow down to me. All right, go ahead.
Verse 7. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Xerxes, they cast Pur.
So Pur is another name for Purim, and also another name for Purim is lot. So when you cast Pur, you're casting a lot on someone. All right, and we're gonna go into that a little bit more. But go ahead.
That is the lot before Haman, from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month. That is the month Adar.
Keep reading.
Verse 8. And Haman said unto King Xerxes, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people.
So Haman, he told Xerxes, you got a certain people, you got Jews that's among us, but the laws that they keep is not the laws that you tell us to keep. They got their own laws that they're keeping. All right, read.
Neither keep they the king's laws.
Neither keep they the king's laws. Go ahead.
Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them.
All right, so Haman told Xerxes, they don't keep your laws. All right, so what's the point of them being here? They don't even keep your laws. Keep going.
Verse 9. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed.
So Haman, this Edomite, he said, look, if it's okay with you, king, hey, let's destroy all the Jews. Remember, this started because Mordecai don't want to bow down to him. Go ahead.
And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have charge of the business, to bring it unto the king's treasuries.
Go ahead.
Verse 10. And the king took him ring from his hand, and gave it unto Haman, the king of
Haman, the son of Hamada.
Hamada the Haggathite, the Jews' enemy. Verse
Right.
11.
So look, the scripture makes it clear. Verse number 10, the Jews' enemy. The Jews' enemy. Right? In Deuteronomy, it tells you we have enemy. In Esther, it tells you we have enemies. Right? Basically, all through the Bible, it tells you that we have enemies. In Psalms, we have enemies. Right? The Jews' enemies. Go ahead. And who's the Jews' enemies? Haman, an Edomite. So this is a precept letting you know the Edomites is our enemies.
Throughout the course of history.
Right. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee.
So he gave Haman money and said, hey, whatever you want to do with these Jews, go ahead. Read.
Verse 12. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the written thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Xerxes was it written, and sealed with the king's ring.
All right, go ahead.
Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces, to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews.
So Haman, the Edomite, had King Xerxes sign off on a letter to send out to his whole kingdom to destroy all of us. All right, go ahead.
Both young and old,
Hey, it doesn't matter if we're young or old to destroy us. Go ahead.
little children and women.
Hey, it don't matter if you're a child or if you're a sister. Hey, you still got to get destroyed. Go ahead.
And one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
All right, and we're going to destroy all of them in one day. All right, so they were really trying to cause a great massacre. All right, go to verse 14.
Verse 14. The copy of the written for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day.
Okay, go ahead.
Verse 15. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was perplexed.
All right, so now we're going to go to chapter 4. Esther chapter 4. All right, so when you get ready to go ahead.
Esther chapter 4 at the top. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put his sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry.
So when Mordecai found out that they're trying to wipe out all the Jews, now he's crying out, right? Go ahead.
Verse 2. And came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. Verse 3. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment had his decree came, there was a great mourning among the Jews, the fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes.
So when our people found out that they're trying to destroy all of us, we started mourning. Or we were stressing, fasting, etc. Right? We was really crying out at this point. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Verse 4. So Esther's maid and her chamberlains came and told it to her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not.
So Esther, she didn't know this was taking place. All right. So when this information was brought to her, she was trying to clothe Mordecai, because remember we read he was in sackcloth. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Then called Esther for Hatash, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was.
Go ahead. So Esther wanted to know why it was taking place. Esther wanted to know, wait, why are they trying to destroy all of us? What's going on? Right? So they send that to Mordecai, so Mordecai could write back to her and tell her why it's taking place. Read.
Verse 6. So Hatash went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. Verse 7. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 8. And he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to shew it unto Esther.
So the letter that was written out to all the palace to get ready to destroy the Jews, Mordecai got his hand in it and he gave it to Esther so she could see exactly what was written. Go ahead.
And to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people.
So Mordecai, he put in the letter to tell Esther, all right, go speak to the king for us. All right, try to defend us. Go speak to the king for us. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And Hatash came and told Esther the words of Mordecai.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 10. Again, Esther spake unto Hatash, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. Verse 11. And the king's servant and the people of the king's provinces do know that whatsoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death.
So Esther is saying, okay, I understand, Mordecai, you want me to go speak to the king, but Esther is like, you can't just go to the king without him calling you. Because if you go to the king without him calling you, he's going to put you to death. All right? That's why, again, remember, the king had to call Vashti. She couldn't just go to him. So the king has to call you in order to go there. All right, go ahead.
Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live.
But if he hold out his scepter to you and tell you to come, you could come and you'll be fine. You won't get put to death. Go ahead.
But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
So she's like, I know you want me to go talk to the king for us Jews, but he haven't called me to see him in a whole 30 days. Right? So what am I supposed to do? Go ahead.
Verse 12. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house.
So they went and told Mordecai what Esther said, and Mordecai, he's getting ready to respond. Don't think you're going to get away. Hey, they trying to wipe out all of us. That includes you. So if they find out you're a Jew, don't think you're going to get away. Go ahead.
The king's house, more than all the Jews. Okay. Verse 14. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall there enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place, but thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed.
So he's letting her know, if you don't say something, hey, you gonna get destroyed too. Hey, your father's house is gonna be done. You gotta speak up, Esther. Go ahead.
And who knoweth whether come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Verse 15. That Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer.
Then Esther said, okay, this is what I want you to tell Mordecai now. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Go gather together all the Jews.
Get all the Jews together
that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me.
Everybody fast. Go ahead.
And neither eat nor drink.
Nobody's going to eat or drink anything. Read.
3 days, night or day.
All right. For 3 days, night and day, no one's eating or drinking. We're all going to fast. Go ahead.
I also and my maidens will fast likewise.
We're also going to fast. Read.
And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law.
Then after we do this, I'm still going to go to the king, which is not according to the law. Meaning, even though the king didn't call me, and I know I'm going to risk getting put to death based off of his law that he made where he has to call us before we go to him, I'm still going to go like you said. Read.
And if I perish, I perish.
And Esther, she said, look, if I die, I die. Right? So right here, Sister Esther, she's stepping up for the nation. All right? Go ahead.
Verse 17. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
So he listened. Right? Chapter 5
at the top. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house, and the king sat upon his royal throne.
All right, read it from the top again.
Your phone keep going off.
Go ahead, read it from the top again.
Your phone's going off.
Esther chapter 5 at the top. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
So basically, Esther, she dressed up very beautiful in her royal apparel, right? She didn't approach the king with some booty shorts to seduce him.
That's right.
Right? With some see-through clothing, right? With some ripped up clothing, right? Today, the women of today, when they want something, they seduce. They gotta get sexual. Esther, she dressed modest and royal and beautiful. We're gonna see how her dressing modest, royal, and in a beautiful manner help her out. We're gonna see if she is gonna fail with what she's looking for because she didn't dress like a harlot. We're gonna see how this turns out. Go ahead.
Verse 2, chapter 5, verse 2. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight.
So the king loved it. He thought she was beautiful. He loved the way she carried herself. All right? He didn't get disappointed because she didn't come with some lingerie. Right? Go ahead.
And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand.
So now he's giving her a chance to approach. Read.
So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Verse 3. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther?
He said, What do you need, Esther? How could I help you, Esther? Read.
And it was thy request.
What do you want? What's your request?
It shall be even given thee to half of the kingdom.
So whatever you need, Esther, even half of my kingdom. Right? Remember, he was ruling from where? India to Ethiopia. So his kingdom was huge. So he told Esther, whatever you need, I'm going to give you half of it. And she didn't even have to do nothing. She didn't have to show her body, nothing. Right? It's just how she carried herself. Right? He was pleased with it. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king.
She said, if it's okay with the king.
Let the king and Haman come this day until the banquet that I have prepared for him.
She's making it clear, look, I have a banquet for you and Haman. Please show up to this banquet that I'm preparing for y'all.
Verse 5. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste.
But tell Haman to hurry up.
That he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Mhm.
Verse 6. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition? What and it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed.
So he reminded Esther again, whatever you want, it's yours. Again, if you want half of my kingdom, you could still have it. All right, read.
Verse 7. Then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is.
This is what I would like.
Verse 8. If I had found favor in the sight of the king,
If I'm pleasing you, read.
and if it is pleased the and if it pleased the king to grant my petition and perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as has the king have said.
So Esther said, look, all I want is for you and Haman to come to my banquet. Right? That's all. Go ahead.
Verse 9. Verse 9. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai.
So Haman, he was happy for a second when he found out about the banquet that was getting prepared for him by Queen Esther. But the second he saw Mordecai, he got angry all over again. Right? That's how much he couldn't stand Mordecai. Go ahead.
Verse 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friend, and refreshed his wife.
Zeresh.
Zeresh his wife. Verse 11. And Haman told them for the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted with him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and the servants of the king. Verse 12.
So right here you got Haman. He's happy. He's still happy, even though he saw Mordecai and he got pissed a little bit. He remembered, hey, I got a high position. I'm over all the princes. All right. So let me tell my wife. Go ahead.
Verse 12. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther, the queen, did not let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself.
And he's happy. He was like, hey, nobody get to come to the banquet but me and the king. All right, go ahead.
And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Verse 13. Yet all the availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
So right here, Haman, he's happy about it, but at the same time, he's like, dang, it don't really mean much because I still got to see Mordecai. He want to have a good time at the banquet, but then he got to see Mordecai right there. So he's not going to be able to have a good time. Right? Read.
Verse 14. Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let the gallows be made of 50 cubits high.
So here's his wife being wicked, encouraging him to make gallows. If you don't know what a gallows is, it's the things that you get hung on,
yep.
right? It's the wooden thing that have the rope and they hang you on it. So his wife is telling him, make that for Mordecai. We're going to hang him on that. Go ahead.
Hey. So that's a so-called white woman trying to get a black man hanged? Is that?
I mean, and she's telling an Edomite man, a so-called white man, to do it.
Right.
All right. So go ahead. Nothing new under the sun.
That's right.
All right.
And tomorrow speak thou unto the kings that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go.
What verse are you in, brother? Sorry.
Verse 14.
14, okay.
Esther 5, 14.
Okay.
And I'm like midway.
Okay.
Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet, and the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
So Haman was happy, right? He was happy. He was like, hey, this is a great idea. I already don't like seeing him. You just encouraged me to make something to get rid of him. That's a great idea, right? Now let's go to chapter 6.
Esther chapter 6 at the top. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records to the chronicles, and they were read before the king.
So the king, he couldn't sleep that night. He wasn't able to fall asleep. Read.
Verse 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, 2 of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king's Xerxes.
And when he was reading, he saw, Mordecai helped him. He saw how Mordecai told Esther how 2 of his own men was trying to destroy him. So he was remembered of that account. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this?
And the Xerxes said, wait, did we pay back Mordecai for helping us? Well, specifically for helping him to not get destroyed by his own man. Did we give him any reward for saving my life? Read.
Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. Verse 4.
They said, hey, we didn't do nothing. We didn't give him any reward, nothing. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And the king said, and the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman came unto the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the kings to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
So right here in verse 4, you got the king thinking, hey, where's Haman? You know what? We got to prepare something for Mordecai, right? Mordecai did save my life. We never rewarded him. So while Xerxes is thinking of giving a reward to Mordecai, you have Haman finding a way to destroy Mordecai. All right, go ahead.
Verse 5. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in.
So they called in Haman. Go ahead.
Verse 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king's delighteth to honor?
So right here, Haman is saying, what are we going to do? How are we going to honor this person that you would like to honor, king? Right now, Haman thinks the king is trying to honor him. He has no clue that the king actually wants to honor Mordecai at this moment. So because of that, we're going to see what Haman is going to say. Go ahead.
Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to honor more than to myself?
So yeah, he think the king is talking about him. Read.
Verse 7. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Verse 8. Let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the king's horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head.
So remember, Haman thinks he's the one that's going to get this honor. So right here he's saying, hey, get the royal apparel, right? Let's get the horse, the crown. Haman think that's all going to be for him. But instead it's going to be for Mordecai. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, make haste, and take the apparel of the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
So now Haman found out that the honor is actually for Mordecai. Right? Read.
That sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail for all that thou hast spoken.
And he reminded him, everything you said, right? Make sure you apply it to Mordecai. All right, the apparel, the horse, the crown. Make sure Mordecai gets all of that. Go ahead.
Verse 11. Then take Haman the apparel and the horse, and array Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Verse 12. And Mordecai came upon the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered.
So now that he realizes this is from Mordecai, Haman is upset. He's very upset, so he's running to his house. All right, his head covered, as the scripture said. Read.
Verse 13. And Haman told Zeresh his wife.
And he told his wife what happened now.
And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him.
So his wife told him, look, you was plotting on Mordecai, and now Mordecai, he's being uplifted. You putting yourself in a situation where it's going to flip on you, and you're going to get destroyed. All right, so go ahead.
Verse 14. And while they were yet talking with him, come the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto a banquet that Esther had prepared.
So they rushed to get Haman so he could come to the banquet. All right, 7. We almost going to finish. Go ahead.
Verse 7. So the king and the Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. Verse 2. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition, Queen Esther?
So again, Xerxes asked Esther, what would you like? Read.
And it shall be granted thee.
Anything.
And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom.
The kingdom, you could have it again. Read.
Verse 3. Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O
If
king,
I'm on your good side, king, read.
O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request.
Save my life. Right? You want to help me with something? Save my life and save my people. Right? What people? Save the Jews. Read.
Verse 4. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Verse 5. Then the king Xerxes answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he, that durst perform in his heart to do so?
So Xerxes, he's angry now. He's like, wait, who's trying to kill you? Who's trying to wipe out your people? Let me know who it is. Read.
And Esther said, the adversary,
the enemy. Read.
And the enemy is this wicked Haman.
So again, now you have Esther telling you, all right, Haman, the Edomites, they're our enemies. All right, read.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen.
And so now he's scared because he knows the king is looking for him. Right? They know everything he's plotting on Esther and on the Jews. Read.
Verse 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen.
So he was begging to not get destroyed. He was begging Esther. Read.
For he saw that there was devil determined against him.
Evil.
Yeah.
Salaki. There was evil determined against him by the king.
So Haman realized the king would like him to get destroyed now for what he was trying to do to Esther. Read.
Verse 8. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the palace of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? as the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
So they snatched him up, right? They threw something over his face. Read.
Verse 9, and Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said unto the king, Behold, the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai.
So the king said, those same gallows that they made for Mordecai, to hang Mordecai and the Jews on, read.
Who has spoken good for the king standeth in the house of Haman.
Mm-hmm.
Then the king said, Hang him thereon.
The king said, those same things, use it to hang Haman on instead.
That's right.
We're going to hang the Edomites on this instead. Read.
That's right. Verse 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that were prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Right.
Pacified.
Then the king was pleased. We got rid of Haman. My wife Esther is going to be fine. Her people, the Jews, is going to be fine. Right? We're almost finished. Keep going.
The decree is revoked. Oh, sorry, I was reading at the top.
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8. On that day did the king Xerxes give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. Mm-hmm. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. Mm-hmm. Verse 2. And the king took off his ring.
So Esther finally said she's a Jew. She remember at first Mordecai was like, don't say nothing. Don't say who your people are, nothing. She finally confesses she's a Jew. All right, go ahead.
And the king, in verse 2, and the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman.
So that same ring he gave to Haman, he took it, read.
And gave it unto Mordecai.
Yeah.
And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
All right, go ahead.
Verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away his mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
All right.
Verse 4. Then the king held out the guardian scepter toward Esther, so Esther arose and stood before the king. Mm-hmm. Verse 5. And said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seemed right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eye, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of the Hammedatha, the Hagatite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces.
So remember, Haman, he wrote a letter so for us to get wiped out by everyone. So Esther's like, okay, I still need to get those letters reversed. We got to cancel those letters so nobody seek to destroy the Jews. So that's what she's asking the king to do, to take back all of those letters that was sent out. Go ahead.
Verse 6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people?
Yeah, I can't live. I can't bear seeing my people get destroyed. Read.
Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred?
Read.
Verse 7. Then the king Xerxes said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and in him they have hung up the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
All right, so he got hung because he was getting ready to lay his hands on the
That's right. Verse 8. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Verse 9. Then the king's scribes called at the time in the 3rd month, that is, the month Sivan, on the 3 and 12th day thereof.
20th.
20th day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants, and to the deputies, and the rulers of the provinces which are from India unto Ethiopia, and 127 provinces upon the province according to the written thereof, and to every people after their language, and to the Jews according to the writing, and according to their language. Verse 10. And he wrote in the king's Xerxes' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post on horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young the
Dromedary.
dromedary. Salaki. Verse 11, wherein the kings granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life.
So the king, he said, look, stand up for yourself. All of y'all Jews, stand up for yourself if needed. Read.
To destroy, to slay, to cause perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them.
And if anyone tries to come against you, destroy them. All right, go ahead.
Assault them, both little ones and women, to take the spoil of them for prey. Verse 12, upon one day in all the provinces of King Xerxes, namely upon the 13th day and the 20th month, 12th month, the 12th month, which is the month Adar. Verse 13, and the copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against the day to avenge themselves on their enemies. Verse 14, so the post that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. Verse 15, and Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad.
So these colors, blue, all right, white, gold, the purple, they're royal colors, all right, in the Bible. Go ahead.
Verse 16, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. Verse 17, and in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews.
All right, so let me address that, because Christians, right? Spiritual Jews, right? They're gonna see that and say, "Hey, you could be a spiritual Jew." All right, that's when you ask them, "Hey, could you be a spiritual Chinese person?" No, you can't. Right? So it says we became Jews. Well, it explains itself. Keep reading it. They became Jews. Why?
I was at 17.
Yeah, just read it again.
Okay. At 17, and in every province, in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
All right, so that's how they became Jews, right? They didn't literally become Jews. All right, they just followed their custom. Why? Because the king gave us power to defend ourselves, to destroy them if they come against us. All right, so they knew that, so they submitted to us, just like they're gonna have to do. Again, they're gonna have to submit to us. So last chapter 9.
Esther chapter 9 at the top. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day on the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to put in execution in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled over them that hated them.
So again, we have people that hate us. Believe it or not, everyone does not love you.
Time.
Right.
Time.
People keep seeing John 3:16 and getting that mixed up.
That's right.
Read.
Verse 2: the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Xerxes to lay hand on such as sought their hurt.
See, again, we are ready to fight back, to lay hands on people
That's right.
that was trying to come against us. All right, go ahead. Today, right, us coming together trying to fight back, they'll call it hate, right? But we gotta, protect ourselves. Read.
That's right. Verse 3: and all the rulers of the province and the lieutenants and the deputies, the officers of the king, helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. Verse 4: for Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces, for his man Mordecai waxed greater and greater.
So I say this a lot. Some people, I don't know if you guys ever seen posts or questions where they ask, if you had a chance to spend certain time with certain people from the Bible, who would it be? I always tell people, make sure you definitely include Moses, because it was a time period where Yahweh was getting to wipe us all out and start new with Moses. But Moses, he was generous enough to say, no, remember your promise, do not wipe out the Israelites. Now, I would definitely include Esther in that. She put her life at risk for all of us. And Mordecai in that, he also put his life at risk for all of us.
That's right.
All right, so go ahead.
Verse
And of
5.
course, Yahushua, you got it.
God.
Sure.
Kings.
Verse 5: thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
This is why earlier they became Jews. They decided to submit and follow our customs. If not, they would have got destroyed. All right, just like Isaiah 14:1. If they don't cleave, they're gonna get destroyed. So they don't have no choice. They're gonna cleave. They're gonna become Jews. All right, go ahead.
Verse 6: and in Shushan the palace, Jews slew and destroyed 500 men.
All right, so it's just gonna give some names. Let's get straight to it. Verse 10.
Verse 10: and 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand. Verse 11: on that day the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. Verse 12: and the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee.
So the king, he cool with it. He don't mind that we defending ourselves, destroying people. Why? Hey, he's pleased with Hadassah, Esther. He's pleased with her, right? So go ahead.
Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. And Esther said, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
All of Haman's sons gotta go.
All right, descendants. I like that.
In case you have another one trying to come up, and attack the Jews later on, right? They all gotta get wiped out. All right, let me get that Obadiah 1:9 real quick.
Obadiah 1:9.
Every single one of his sons gotta go.
Yeah.
Just like
We'll
right
come
here
back
in
for
Obadiah.
revenge.
Alright, question. They hanged them when they were already dead, or there's more sons here?
No, these sons are still alive at the moment. They're gonna get hanged. Go ahead.
Obadiah, verse 9. And thy mighty men of old to men shall be dismayed, to the end that everyone in Mount Esau may be
Read that correctly.
Salaki.
1 and 9.
1 and 9. Okay, so 1 and 9. And thy mighty men, O to men, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of Mount Esau may be cut off by slaughter.
All right, so everyone of the mount of Esau is going to be cut off by slaughter. All right, same right here, right? All of these Edomites, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Obadiah 1 and 9.
1 and 9, okay.
Yeah. So all of these Edomites right here, they getting cut off by slaughter, right? Specifically hung. All right.
There's
Go ahead.
that classic Isaiah 14:21.
All right, yeah, go ahead, bring that up. Isaiah 14 and 21.
21. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities.
So that's a great precept. So right here you got Haman's children, his son, getting slaughtered, and the brother just got a great precept where it says prepare slaughter, right, for his children for the iniquity of his father.
That's his phone.
All right, let's continue. We're gonna go back to
It's your phone, man. Put it on mute. It's been going off. I keep on trying to put it on your phone on mute or turn it off.
Okay, this was verse 14. Yes, verse 8. Okay, Esther chapter 9, verse 14. And the king.
Your phone. Turn it off.
And
yeah, cut it off, brother. All right, keeps going off, King.
Put it on mute or something.
All right, let's continue.
Esther chapter 9, verse 14. And the king commanded it so be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons.
Keep going.
Verse 15. And the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan. But on the prey they laid not their hand. Verse 16. But the other Jews that were in the king's province gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. Verse 17. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
All right, so look, for Purim, it's a day that you want to observe with feasting and gladness. It's not a day that you want to observe with a stressing, sad spirit, etc. All right, read.
Verse 18. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day, on the day they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
All right, so first you had Nicanor, all right, then specifically you have Purim. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Therefore, the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another.
All right, so they were sending gifts to each other. All right, so on Purim you could send gifts to your family members, etc. in the truth. All right, keep reading.
Verse 20. The feast of Purim. Verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the kings Xerxes, both nigh and far. Verse 21. To establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Dar, and 15th day of the same yearly.
So Purim has to be kept every year. All right, go ahead.
Verse 22. As the day wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy.
So verse 22 is letting you know basically how, right? It's summing it all up, how Purim came about, right? We're finally getting rest from our enemies. All right, go ahead.
That they should make them days of feasting and joy,
Mm-hmm.
and sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 13.
And look, so and on
I mean,
Purim,
23.
remember Purim is 2 days, right?
Mhm.
It's gonna be February 22nd sundown tonight, right? And it's gonna be over February 24th at sundown. So what you want to do is make sure, like, sometime during Purim, if you could, go for a walk or something and give back to our people that's less fortunate, that don't really have anything. All right, whether it be food, clothing, water, whatever, right? Go ahead and give it back. All right, we would give gifts and give back to the poor. Go ahead. Our people too, not Esau.
That's right.
To our people. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And the Jews undertook to do as they had began, and as Mordecai had written unto them.
And when you do it, if you choose to give back to our people, please don't. Facebook don't gotta know, right? Social media don't gotta know, right? As it tells you in the book of Matthew, Yahweh tells you, right? Don't let your basically keep it secret, all right? Everybody don't gotta know, all right? They got people, they record everything they do good, they're recording it, right? For views, for likes. No, do something sincere for once in private, right? Go ahead.
Verse 24. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Haggathite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast that is, the lot, to consume them.
So again, Pur means Purim, also specifically lot. All right, Purim means to cast lot. So the lot that Hadassah, Esther had, and Mordecai had was to help deliver us from Haman. All right, that's the lot that they have. We all have different lots. All right, some people's lot is to teach. Some people's lot is to be the best reader ever. Some people's lot is to hold down posts like no other, right? Some people's lot is to make fringes like no other. Some people's lot is to cook and help support their congregations like no other. Some people has lot to where some celebrities are in the truth. They can't just come out and say, "Hey, I'm an Israelite," and be out in the street teaching. So they financially help in the background. All right, everyone have a purpose in this walk. All right, go ahead.
I'll start at the top. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Haggathite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and cast that is, the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. Verse 25. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Mm-hmm. Verse 26. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur.
So all right, so it was Pur. Purim is called after Pur. All right, that's where the name Purim comes in. Go ahead.
Therefore, for all the words of his letter, and that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had came unto them. Verse 26. The Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all has joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time every year.
So again, we have to keep these 2 days of Purim every year. All Jews, Israelites. Go ahead.
Verse 28. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation.
You got to teach your children, right? Their generation, right? Their children's generation. Everyone got to keep Purim. Go ahead.
Every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews.
A year should not pass by where Jews don't keep Purim. All right, keep it every year.
Nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 29, that Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent the letter unto all the Jews to 127 provinces of the kingdom of Xerxes, which words of peace and truth. Verse 31, to confirm these days of Purim in their time appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had adjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed the matter of the fasting and their cries.
So we don't have to fast, all right, for Purim. Well, you're not supposed to fast on Purim. Judah 8 and 6 makes it clear to not fast on the feast days. But, we fasted so we could get ourselves out of that situation with Haman. All right, so we don't have to fast for Purim. You do not fast for Purim, to be specific. All right, go ahead.
Verse 32, and the decree of Esther confirmed these matter of Purim, and it was written in the book.
In what book? Esther, the Bible. All right, so that's that. All praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Hamashiach Yahushai. Again, happy Purim. All right, happy Purim. And we gotta make sure we keep this feast. And when we keep this feast, remember the purpose of keeping this feast is to show our love for Yahushai and keep the commandments, right? Overall, to obey Yahweh's word and to help deliver us from the noises of the archers. All right. Deuteronomy 8 and 10 makes it clear. Pray before you eat and after you eat. All right, let's pray it up. Let's face the east.